Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the most intense and emotional storylines of your favorite daytime dramas. Today is a beautiful day to unravel the complicated webs of love, betrayal, and dark secrets. We are exploring a highly requested dynamic that has left audiences completely stunned and begging for a resolution. Let us jump right into the heart of the drama. I'm about to sound like a madman, but let me hear it anyway. I have been staring at the ceiling for hours, replaying the incredibly tense and suffocating dynamics between Shanice, Ted, and the ever-looming ghost of Dr. Nicole Dupree. It is absolutely wild to me how a person who isn't even actively in the room can completely dominate the psychological space of a relationship. Shanice is constantly facing the haunting presence of Nicole, Ted's newly divorced ex-wife, and it's like there is a third person in the bed with them at all times. Ted naturally, obviously, undeniably still has lingering feelings for her. It's written in his micro-expressions, the way he hesitates before answering questions about his past, and the way he almost seems to mourn his previous life. This makes it almost impossible for him to want to step up and commit to a serious, grounded relationship with the new woman in his life, Shanice. Actually, I'm not sure I understand correctly, but is Ted just emotionally stunted? Or is he actively choosing to live in the past because it's safer than the unpredictable future with Shanice? Maybe I'm connecting unrelated things, but I feel like Shanice and Ted had actually found a bizarre, somewhat functional rhythm. They learned how to live with the ghost of Nicole. They established a baseline of survival. If we do a quick survival psychology analysis of Shanice's situation, she essentially adapted her expectations to fit Ted's broken emotional capacity. She accepted that she would have to share his heart with a memory. I have a theory, but I don't really believe it myself. I think Shanice thought her patience would eventually cure him. She thought that if she just waited out the storm of his divorce, she would get the fully healed version of Ted. Everything makes sense until I think about it for another 10 seconds. Because if they had learned to live with the Nicole situation, why did everything fall apart so spectacularly? It wasn't the ex-wife that triggered the collapse. It was the present reality. It was Leslie. Let me explain why this is important. The true catalyst for this entire disaster, the real earthquake that shattered their fragile foundation, was when Shanice witnessed that intimate moment between Ted and Leslie. I can just picture the scene in my head, the lighting, the hushed tones, the physical proximity that crosses every single boundary of a professional or platonic relationship. Shanice sees this, and she absolutely cannot endure it. And why should she? Leslie is a hyper-vigilant, calculating individual who is constantly on guard and continuously, relentlessly insulting Shanice. Actually, forget that part. Leslie isn't just insulting Shanice. She is systematically trying to dismantle Shanice's self-worth. It's a power struggle of epic proportions, and Ted just stands there. Wait, this connects to the first scene. Ted's inability to defend Shanice against Leslie mirrors his inability to let go of Nicole. He is passive. He is a passenger in his own life. After noticing that Ted consistently sides with Leslie, or worse, openly praises Leslie despite her blatantly toxic and malicious behavior, Shanice finally hits her breaking point. She couldn't endure it anymore. The moral collapse of Ted's character in these moments is staggering. How can a man claim to care for a woman and then validate her abuser in the very next breath? Maybe I'm overthinking, but listen, Ted siding with Leslie isn't just a mistake. It's a subconscious strategy to keep Shanice insecure so she doesn't demand more from him. Okay, wait a minute, let me say it again. If Shanice leaves, how will Leslie react when Ted inevitably breaks down and begs for Shanice's love? Because we all know Ted is going to beg. He is going to drop to his knees, utterly desperate, pleading with Shanice not to abandon him. How will Leslie process that? Will Leslie throw a massive fit of jealousy when she realizes that Ted genuinely loves Shanice far more than she ever calculated? Leslie has been operating under the arrogant assumption that she was the one pulling the strings, that she was the one Ted truly valued and respected. Seeing Ted in a state of sheer despair, begging another woman, is going to shatter Leslie's delusions of grandeur. Actually, no. I should have mentioned that earlier. Leslie's insults toward Shanice were never just about petty dislike. Why is Leslie so visibly annoyed and uncomfortable every single time Ted shows genuine care or affection for Shanice? Is Leslie secretly harboring deep, romantic feelings for Ted, hiding them behind a veil of professional camaraderie and snarky comments? Or is she deliberately trying to destroy Ted's relationship just to keep him isolated and dependent on her? I mean, not exactly, but something like that. It's a parasitic attachment. Leslie wants to be the most important woman in Ted's life, even if she doesn't want to date him. She wants ownership. She wants control. What am I saying? Oh right, Ted's desperation. Does Ted actually love Shanice, or is he just absolutely terrified of losing the one person who has been a constant, comforting presence in his messy life? This is a crucial distinction. If he truly loves her, his begging is a realization of his own foolishness. But if he is just afraid of being alone, a fear stemming from his divorce with Nicole, then his begging is purely selfish. He doesn't want Shanice. He wants a warm body to shield him from the cold reality of his failures. Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's a chaotic mix of both. Fear and despair are often intertwined in a mind experiencing emotional overload. Anyway, the main point is wait. What is the main point? The main point is how Leslie will retaliate. Will Leslie continue to just mock and taunt Shanice, or will she finally start viewing Shanice as a genuine, formidable threat? If Ted publicly and definitively chooses Shanice over her, Leslie is not going to just walk away quietly. Will she accept defeat when Ted runs after Shanice? Absolutely not. She will become exponentially more dangerous. We are looking at a potential symbolic apocalypse within their social circle. Leslie is the type to scorch the earth rather than let someone else plant a garden on it. I have a theory, but I don't really believe it myself. What if Leslie tries to orchestrate a brand new, highly elaborate misunderstanding to permanently sever Ted and Shanice? She could easily manipulate a situation, plant false evidence, or twist a conversation to make it look like Shanice is the one betraying Ted. Leslie is cunning enough to use Ted's lingering insecurities about Nicole against Shanice. She could whisper in his ear, feeding his paranoia. But that doesn't explain why Ted would believe her after he just begged Shanice to stay, unless Ted's fear makes him gullible. And what about Dr. Nicole Dupree? How would Nicole react if she caught wind of this absolute circus? If Nicole finds out that Ted is on his knees begging his new girlfriend to come back because he let another woman disrespect her, what would she think? Would she feel a sense of vindication, knowing that she was right to divorce this indecisive, weak-willed man? Or would she feel a strange pang of jealousy, realizing that Ted is fighting harder for Shanice than he ever fought for their marriage? Maybe it doesn't matter, but I noticed that Ted's behavior patterns are cyclical. He creates a mess, refuses to take accountability, and then relies on the women in his life to clean it up. Let's talk about Shanice's internal conflict. Will Shanice completely soften and melt when she hears Ted's desperate pleas? Or has she been far too deeply wounded, too profoundly traumatized by his repeated betrayals, to ever grant him forgiveness? Can she ever truly trust Ted again after witnessing him stand by and smile while Leslie tore her down? Trust is like glass. Once it shatters, you can glue it back together, but the cracks will always distort the view. Shanice has to ask herself if she is willing to look through cracked glass for the rest of her life. Okay, I know I just said the opposite, but listen to me. What if Shanice gives Ted an absolute, non-negotiable ultimatum? What if she looks him dead in the eye and demands that he cut ties completely and entirely with Leslie? How will Ted react to that? Will he finally step up, grow a spine, and choose to fiercely protect Shanice? Or will he revert to his default setting and instinctively start defending Leslie again, claiming that Shanice is being unreasonable or paranoid? If he defends Leslie again, it will be the final nail in the coffin. It will be the ultimate moral collapse. Actually, I'm not sure I understand correctly, but does Shanice fully comprehend the depth of Leslie's malice? Does Shanice realize that Leslie doesn't just want Ted, but that she actively wants to destroy Shanice? This isn't just a competition for a man's attention. This is a psychological annihilation. Leslie wants to break Shanice's spirit. She wants to prove that she is superior, that she holds the ultimate power over Ted's mind and actions. The power struggles here are intense and terrifying. It's not just about love, it's about dominance. Maybe I'm connecting unrelated things, but I feel like the environment around them is changing, growing more toxic and suffocating. The tension is palpable. Every conversation is a minefield. Every glance is a hidden warning. I predict that the future conflict will escalate from these minor, passive-aggressive tensions into a full-scale emotional war. Leslie is going to cross a line that cannot be uncrossed. And Ted will be standing right in the middle, paralyzed by his own cowardice, unable to stop the man-made apocalypse he helped create. Wait, actually, let me rethink Ted's paralysis. Is it possible that Ted enjoys the attention? No, hold on a minute. That's too cynical. Ted isn't evil. He's just profoundly flawed. He lacks the emotional vocabulary to navigate these complex waters. But ignorance is not an excuse for the damage he is causing. When he begged Shanice, was he crying? Was he shaking? The physical manifestation of his despair must have been overwhelming. But Shanice needs to look past the tears and see the pattern. She needs to perform her own survival psychology analysis and realize that staying with a man who won't protect her is a death sentence for her self-esteem. Everything makes sense until I think about it for another 10 seconds. Because if Shanice leaves, Leslie wins, and we can't let Leslie win. But if Shanice stays, she loses herself. It's a devastating paradox. I mean, not exactly, but something like that. The only way Shanice truly wins is if Ted fundamentally transforms, which requires a level of self-awareness he has never demonstrated. Anyway, my brain is completely fried trying to untangle this mess. The betrayals, the hidden feelings, the haunting ghosts of past marriages. It's all too much, but I absolutely cannot look away.